Okay, I know how I said WandaVision is still my favorite, but now after this episode, like Hawkeye is definitely my favorite series, and this episode, like, that's it. That's my review. Have a good day. And welcome to my safe haven. Thank you guys for joining me for another Hawkeye review here on the Black Gay Comic Geek channel. If this is your... Whoa, that was I just finished eating, so like my tongue is all over the place. But if this is your first time joining my channel, thank you so much for clicking on this video. Hi, my name is Michael, the Black Gay Comic Geek. I always say the things that I love to talk about in my fantasy has blood, sex, gore, and magic, or any variation of the four. So I like to talk superheroes, I like to talk comic books, I like to talk video games, I like to talk sci-fi, I like to talk fantasy, and I like to talk about black representation and queer representation, because if you can't tell, I am both. So if that's something that you are interested in, and you are interested in this video and what I have to say, please check out the other videos on my channel and subscribe, and hopefully you become a regular here on the Black Gay Comic Geek channel. But whether this is your first or you are a regular on the channel, if you could do me a favor and hit that like button, it'll really help with the YouTube algorithm to get not only this video out there, but my channel out there, so I can hit another milestone on this channel of 5,000 subscribers. Thank you guys so much for allowing me to get to this point. Now let's keep this train growing and going. But with that said, if you couldn't tell by the title of this episode, we are talking spoilers for Hawkeye episode 5. So as my friend Fantastic Frankie would say, if you haven't seen it, you need to dip, because we got wild spoilers. Speaking of Fantastic Frankie, I know you guys know we usually go live to talk about Hawkeye. I'm not sure when or if we're going to be able to go live this week, because I know today or tonight Frankie has an event that she's going to. She's seeing The Matrix early. I didn't get an invite. And Ron might be working. He might be doing overtime. And then tomorrow is Spider-Man No Way Home. Or at least I'm seeing Spider-Man No Way Home. I think Ron is seeing it on Fridays. Frankie's seeing it on Saturday. So, yeah, I don't know when we're going to go live. Maybe tomorrow morning, but I'm not sure. But with that said, hit the bell notification button so you're alerted when I do post the broadcast that I am going live. If I do, you get alerted and you could join us on the live. But this isn't live. I'm here by myself talking episode 5 of Hawkeye. What is the name of this episode? Hold up. The name of this episode is Ronin. You would think I'd be prepared, but what is preparation on a channel where editing exists? But anyway, the synopsis for this episode reads: a fallout nearly derails their partnership, but Kate makes a discovery that changes everything. And, I don't even know what to say, because this episode just had, this whole series in general just has me excited. Like, again, I said this before, who would have thought that Hawkeye, the series that I was least excited about, is now the series that I'm most looking forward to every single week. Wow. Again, that is, who would have thought? But with that, let me get this out of the way, because I will say, rhyme, because my only negative about this episode in this series, especially after this episode, why is this series only 6 episodes? Why does Marvel keep marrying themselves to the concept of only 6 episodes? Because I'm just like, there's so much. Granted, I don't know how it's going to end, but I'm like, unless next week's episode is like an hour and a half, not even an hour, like an hour and a half, which based on the other properties, that hasn't seemed to be the case. I'm like, how are they going to wrap up all of these storylines in only one more episode? Like, this series should have been, I feel like there could have been like 3 or 4 more episodes. That's my only real negative. It should be more than 6 episodes. Even if we get a season 2, which I feel like we could get a season 2, there should still be more than 6 episodes. But the episode begins with Kate comes home crying because her dreams of being a superhero, her dreams of being like Hawkeye, as she feels, has been crushed because Clint basically told her to go home and never come back, like, leave me alone, you're not my partner anymore. And she's crushed because, like she said in this episode, like, it's been her dream to be like an Avenger, or more specifically Hawkeye, since she was a kid. That's why she was training. That's why she got the mastery of archery and everything like that, which I need to go back to Gotham Archery. Actually, I did it this way. Go back to Gotham Archery and learn and brush up on my archery skills, because the zombie apocalypse is definitely coming at some point. So I need to be an expert. But yeah, plus that was fun. And of course, her mother's not upset about it. She's like, oh, because she didn't want her daughter working with Hawkeye in the first place. And it's not even just about she didn't want her daughter in danger, because more now that I think about it, especially after this episode, she didn't want her daughter and Hawkeye specifically working on this specific case. She didn't say, oh, I don't want you working with Clint. She said, I want you to drop this case. Now we know why. But the best part of this episode for me, Florence Pugh's Yelena Belova. Like, I am falling in love with Florence Pugh in the MCU. Another rhyme. I feel like, poetry. Like, call me Black Gay Comic Geek the rapper, MC, whatever. But anyway, like, Florence Pugh continues to impress me every time she's on screen as Yelena. Like, the entire conversation between her and Kate Bishop, like, if this was the entire episode, I would have been super captivated the entire way through, because the tension and the dynamic and the chemistry. Speaking of chemistry, like, I always talk about the chemistry between Clint and Kate. The chemistry between Kate and Yelena, like, I absolutely love the chemistry between Haley Steinfeld and Florence Pugh. Like, it just felt so intense watching them and having this conversation and this cat and mouse game between the two of them. Like, I was here for every single second of it. And me, like, I want to try the macaroni and cheese, like, cause she keeps saying how good it is. And like, I love Yelena even more, because, like, I put hot sauce on my macaroni and cheese. So the fact that she was, like, pouring that sriracha on there, I was like, a girl after my own heart. Like, I love this woman. And side note, because I have to address this, Black Gay Comic Geek, but I saw some people shipping Kate and Yelena, and even though they do make a running gag of Kate Bishop in the comics of saying she's the only token straight character in the Young Avengers, but America Chavez is like, princess, I've seen the way you look at me, you're not that straight. That's a thing that happens in the comics, and as far as we know right now, Kate Bishop is heterosexual, maybe, but I wouldn't want, as big of a shipper as I am, I wouldn't want that, because it's pretty well established that Yelena Belova in the comics is not only asexual, but it's hinted that she's aromantic. So I wouldn't want them, for the sake of representation, I wouldn't want them to change that for the MCU. Because as far as I know, they kind of did that for Jughead in the Riverdale season or series. Because I know in the comics he's asexual, but then in the show they had him get with Ben. I don't really watch Riverdale anymore, but I think they had him get with one of the female characters. And it's like, come on now, like, representation matters. But I loved how during this entire conversation, Yelena had no problems in calling Clint out on his shit. Like, these people, and not even just Clint, I feel like she's calling out all the Avengers, because I would say, with the exception of maybe Steve Rogers, none of these people are heroes. They've all done terrible things. And at what point and how much terrible stuff do you have to do before you're called out on it, before you're not really recognized as a hero? Yeah, you might have saved the world, but, like, you know how they say a broken clock is right twice a day? And it's not to say that they're villains or anything like that, but I always constantly say, like, Tony Stark is trash. Tony Stark is not a hero. Now, with that said, I don't think Marvel's going to call out Tony Stark. They're going to continue to eulogize and idolize Tony Stark, even though Tony Stark is a whole ass problem and one of the biggest villains in the MCU. But that's a whole nother topic. I know there are some people that get mad at me when I say that, but it's true. And the next moment, I'm just like, we need another episode, because we find out that, because Clint, or Kate rather, has come clean to her mother and told her mother more about the Sloan Corporation that her fiance, Jack Duquesne, has had, and doing shady dealings. And then we find out next scene that she calls the cops and has him arrested. And then jumping to the end, how we know his mother, or her mother, Eleanor, is working with the Kingpin, and she obviously knows who the Kingpin is. I highly doubt she's in the dark on that one, but then it makes me wonder, so is she having Jack Duquesne arrested because maybe she's the one that actually owns Sloan, and is maybe covering her tracks in front of her daughter? And because he did say, oh, somebody's framing me. So I'm like, so is he actually a villain? Who killed Armand? Like, what's going on with Jack? Like, is he maybe not a villain? Or, like, what is that relationship? Because obviously her mother's shade. And then also, like, I'm assuming her mother had her father killed. Like, I just have a lot of questions with regards to that whole relationship with her and Jack. Maybe they were working together, and now she's pretending not to know anything because her daughter found out more information. Like, I just have a whole lot of questions with regards to that whole thing. We only have like one episode left, and it's like, it's too much to wrap up in one episode. Which, speaking of which, because since I'm already there, Yelena found out that she was hired by Kate's mother, Eleanor. But then I'm like, well, wait a minute. I thought Contessa Valentina Fontaine, I think that's her name. She has so many names. But I thought she was the one that pointed Yelena in the direction of Clint. So I thought she technically hired her. But I guess, I don't know. I'm confused on that one too. That's another question I have. Because I'm like, the post-credit scene of Black Widow sent, she's the one that sent Yelena after Clint, not Eleanor. And then also, why does Eleanor want Clint dead? It doesn't seem like, especially when they interacted with each other, it doesn't seem like that she knows he's Ronin. She doesn't want Ronin dead. She wants Clint dead. And speaking of that, like, I really loved and appreciated that Clint actually knew Yelena existed, knew her name. I meant Natasha confided in him, and with the identity of this family that she has that she's never talked about, which actually goes to show more that they actually were best friends. It's just, we never saw it in the MCU, and it continued. The more they reveal about their relationship, the more they show us, and like even the Marvel's What If series, the more sadder I become about what we could have gotten that we didn't get in the MCU with regards to these two, the two of their relationship and dynamic. Even like her relationship with Nick Fury and just S.H.I.E.L.D. in general. Like, remember, Clint named his son Nathaniel after Natasha, and she's the godmother to all of his kids. But I'm just like, I wish we got to see more of that explored before her untimely demise. Even her relationship with Yelena, I wish we have gotten like 3 Black Widow movies before she was unalived, and we got to see more of that relationship. Like, there's so many relationships I wish got explored, and I get like rights and yada, and Ike Perlmutter didn't want to have a Black Widow movie, just like he didn't want to have a Captain Marvel movie, just like he didn't want a Black Panther movie. So I know there were a lot of extenuating behind the scenes circumstances of why like Black Widow got her movie like years later when it should have came like in phase 2. Like, I understand all of that, but still, from the storytelling perspective of what we have now, like, yeah, it just makes me sad. Speaking of something else that makes me sad, like, I am not impressed by how they are handling Maya Lopez's Echo in this series. And I'm not talking about Alaqua Cox and her acting and her portrayal or anything like that. Like, I think she's doing a great job. However, and I know, you know, we can't always compare things to the comics and everything like that, but at the same time, like, Echo in the comics is a whole ass problem. I don't mean problematic, but I mean she's so formidable that even despite not having the level of training that, say, like Daredevil has, she got to the point that she almost unalived him because she was so deadly. Like, her superhero name is Echo for a reason, because she can look at your moves once and she's basically a master. Like, almost her power set is literally the same thing as the Taskmaster. And I'm like, maybe they don't want to go that route again because they just introduced the Taskmaster, and then also in the MCU they changed the Taskmaster to be a female as opposed to being male. But like, we're gonna get X-Men in like the next couple of years. How many telepaths are there in terms of, like, especially white telepaths, are there in terms of mutants? So it's like, yeah, they're showing that she's a damn good fighter, but they're not showing her actual Echo abilities. Like, we haven't seen her like see Clint do a move and then she does the same move. Like, they teased it one time in episode 3 when she was a kid, but we haven't seen her do it since then as an adult. And I don't really like that. Like, that's her whole thing. Like, she doesn't seem like she doesn't seem scary to me, and she should be. Like, yeah, I get Clint is more experienced and Maya ended up getting the upper hand at the end of the fight, but at the same time, I feel like she should have been more of a menace to both Clint and Yelena, and I feel like she wasn't. Especially if she's about to get her own Disney Plus series with, I'm assuming, Kingpin as the villain, because I don't know if we're going to get another season of Daredevil, even though they did confirm that Charlie Cox is returning to the MCU. And then we skip to the ending of this episode, we saw Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin in the flesh, and I'm just like, oh, the ending. And then jumping to the end credits, like, I don't know if you guys watched the entire end credit. There was no end credit scene, but there was a Kingpin silhouette during the credits that showed like he's coming, and Like, this episode takes place in New York. Spider-Man No Way Home is next week or tomorrow. I'm seeing it. And that also takes place in New York. And Kingpin is not only a big Daredevil villain, but he's also a big Spider-Man villain. And there was rumors that Charlie Cox is going to appear in Spider-Man. So it's just the connections. I'm just like, I want it all. I want it all. I want it all. Give it to me. I want to see Kingpin go up against Spider-Man. I want to see Daredevil in this, back in the MCU. Kingpin, like, But yeah, I think that's pretty much it that I'm going to save for this video. I'm going to save the rest for maybe, because I still don't even know if we're going live. But yeah, like I said, my biggest criticism is that there's only 6 episodes, because there's so much to wrap up. Like, we still don't even know what the full storyline is with the Rolex, and is it actually his wife? Like, because there's been theories that his wife is going to be Mockingbird from the MC, and that because they introduced the character Mockingbird in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but they kind of been playing fast and loose of whether Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is still canon to the current version of the MCU. So is she going to be a new Mockingbird? Are they going to be like Black Widows where the Mockingbird name is just like Black Widow, so she's just a different incarnation of Mockingbird? Maybe she was a former Black Widow, but clearly they're making it seem like his wife was an agent of some kind and that's how they met. But I'm just like, there's just so much to wrap up in just one episode, and I'm just like, I'm hoping, especially with as hype as I've been with this series, I'm hoping I'm not disappointed by the end, because there's so many threads that have been left just untethered. But either way, I am loving this series so far. Like, I would rate Hawkeye a blockbuster as of right now. But again, we still got to wait for the series to end, because it might end on a very flaccid note. So yeah, but the question is, what did you guys think about this episode of Hawkeye? Where does this episode rank in terms of your favorite? I would probably say this episode might be my favorite so far. But yeah, anyway, what about you? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Also, if you can, hit that thumbs up button again. Please hit that thumbs up button. It'll really help with the YouTube algorithm and getting my video and channel out there. If this is one of your first time checking out one of my videos, please check out the other videos on my channel. And if you like what you see, please subscribe for more and hit that bell notification button so you're alerted every single time I post a new video, and you'll be alerted whether I go live tomorrow morning, and hopefully you pull up. And also tell your friends, families, and neighbors about my channel, about my potential live, to help me continue to grow. As always, I will catch you guys next time.